Renewing your surety bond. Here's a 3-part guide highlighting the process of renewing a surety bond as well as answering some of the most commonly asked questions about surety bond renewals. Find out the necessary information that you need before renewing a bond. This first part of the series will explain the different types of bond terms and the difference between renewing and extending a bond. Before anything else, it is handy to have an understanding of the parties involved in a surety bond since they're going to appear multiple times in this 3-part guide. The principal, this is the party who will obtain the bond and is in charge of ensuring that the bond's obligations are fulfilled. The obligee, this is the bond's beneficiary and the party requiring the bond. The surety, the party that will provide the surety bond. A lot of people ask if surety bonds expire, and the simple answer to that is yes, they do. Since this is the case, then how long do surety bonds remain valid? The validity of the bond, also known as the term of the bond, depends on the underlying law that the bond is conditioned after. In some cases, it depends on the contract that the principal and the obligee have agreed upon. There are 4 types of bond terms, specifically. 1. Continuous until cancelled. Continuous until cancelled bonds mean that the validity of the bond is indefinite until it is cancelled by the surety or if the obligee releases the bond. Most of the time, a verification certificate must be submitted to the obligee for this type of bond. 2. Continued or renewed by a certificate. Some bonds can be renewed or extended by a continuation certificate. The continuation certificate, which is typically good for 1 year, must be submitted to the obligee each time one is issued by the surety. 3. Definite stated term. A fixed date is provided. For example, from January 1, 2021, to January 1, 2022. If the bond contains a definite stated term, a new bond must be issued for subsequent periods. 4. Non-cancelable. Even though these types of bonds have no termination dates, they can still be cancelled. Unlike the continuous until cancelled bond, the cancellation for this type is due to the performance of the underlying obligation. Once you determine the term of the bond, you'll be able to decide whether your surety bond should be renewed or extended. That's right. Not all bonds should be renewed, some are extended. Continuous bonds, for one, don't need to be renewed, however, you must submit a verification certificate for it to remain valid. How do you know if your surety bond should be renewed or should be extended? Here are ways on how to know if your bond is renewable. 1. Notification from your surety. Your surety should inform you about the validity of your bond from the get-go. If your bond is up for renewal, your surety will notify you days before the expiry date of your bond. 2. Check the term of your bond. The validity of your bond is stated in the bond form, statute, regulations, ordinances, or private contracts. It is important to read each carefully and thoroughly so that you'll not only know when your bond is up for renewal, but you'll also know if there might be any changes made upon renewal. 3. Notification from the obligee. In other cases, the obligee may require you to renew your bond every year. In these cases, a renewal bond must be issued by your surety. 2. Or if it should be extended. 1. Continuation certificate. Most prefer that bonds be continuous since this will ease the burden of filing new paperwork each year. The bond form will state if the bond requires a continuation certificate. Once your surety has issued a continuation certificate, the said certificate must immediately be filed with the obligee. 2. Verification certificate. Some continuous bonds require the principal to submit a verification certificate to let the obligee know that the bond is still in full force and effect. Verification certificates are usually requested by the obligee for bonds that have been on file with them for years. Now that we've established that surety bonds do expire and a bond's renewal or extension depends primarily on the term of the bond, it's time to find out how to easily renew a surety bond. We'll be discussing the step-by-step process of renewing a bond in part 2 of this series guide. Stay tuned.